bum ba-dum, bum bum bum, bum bum bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum bum ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. Hello, my friends. You're all here ahead of me. Aloha from Hawaii. Yeah, there's a little techno glitch. There's always a glitch. So let's get started. Michigan here. Hi, Tabitha. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. Tonight's going to be an interesting night, right? And before I get started, I'll just remind you of why we're all here. My name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to teach you and to share homeopathy. Information that I have, that I've gleaned over the years, that I've read or studied or experienced or noted in my clinical practice. And so thank you for joining me tonight. And for those of you who already know me, hi, friends. Great to see you all. Hi, Elizabeth. Go Perry, says Phyllis. So, my favorite pediatrician. You may already know who I'm going to be telling you about. And let's see if you do. See if you can guess. Because it's really, it's my privilege to to share the information that this very wise man distributed in the 70s, the 80s, and then he passed away. And let's see if you know who I'm talking about. Let's say, hi, Donna. Let me also tell you, friends, before you name who this famous pediatrician was, he was not a homeopath, so I'll give you a clue. He was not a homeopath. And he was, you're right, Pamela, you're absolutely right, Dr. Mendelsohn, you bet. I've been reading from his book for some time, in my Mighties, Robert S. Mendelsohn, How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And my friends, I don't care if you don't have children. This is a book that everyone needs to know about. I'll keep holding it up. You can get it on Amazon. For a long time, it was on Amazon for, like $2. Now it's a little bit more. And then then it's not available any longer. And then you have to go back to it again. Hello from Western Australia. Hi, Tara. Great to see everyone hopping in. Dr. Mendelsohn, he's written other books that I urge you to read. This one is particularly good for anyone who either has children or pets or is dealing with any person that they have charge over and they have to deal with the doctor. So he wrote it as a pediatric book because he was a pediatrician, but all of this can be transferred to other paradigms. When you're taking care of an elderly parent, when you're taking care of a dog, when you're taking care of animals, so it relates also to veterinarians, etc. But tonight, we're going to talk about what he says about measles. So I'm going to be very careful with how I say this. I don't know if censorship is happening in the same fashion that it used to be, but I'm going to be extra careful anyway. And I'm on page 236 if you happen to have this copy. How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor by Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. He says, no treatment is required for measles other than bed rest, fluids to combat possible dehydration. Hello, of course, from fever. We always do that. And calamine lotion. I wouldn't use calamine lotion. We would use something homeopathic, a lotion that or an ointment from Boron or OHM Pharma or Washington Homeopathic or Helios, etc. Or cornstarch baths to relieve the itching. Now, we also, my friends, have remedies for itching, haven't we? But he was not a homeopath, and we'll talk about itching remedies in a moment for this condition. If the child suffers from photophobia, the blinds in his bedroom should be lowered to darken the room. However, contrary to the popular myth, there is no danger of permanent blindness from the disease. To prevent measles is another element of the MMR given in early childhood. Doctors maintain that the is necessary to prevent the encephalitis, which they say occurs about once in 1,000 cases. Now he gives us his information, his experience as a clinician. I think it was 40 years that he was in practice. After decades of experience with this condition, I question this statistic, and so do many other pediatricians. The incidence of 1 in 1,000 may be accurate for children who live, now this is important, who live in conditions of poverty and malnutrition. We have clean water, my friends. Sewage is carried away, out of sight. We are not plagued by garbage in the streets. But in the middle and upper income brackets, if one excludes simple sleepiness from the measles itself, the incidence of true encephalitis is probably more like 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000. Now, after frightening you with the unlikely possibility of, oh, you want me to go live here?
Yes.
Okay. After duly frightening you with the unlikely possibility of encephalitis, your doctor can rarely be counted on to tell you of the dangers associated with the he uses to prevent it. The is associated with encephalopathy and with a series of other complications, such as subacute, sclerosing, hold on, because this word is broken up in one line and onto the next. Panencephalitis, which causes hardening of the brain and is invariably fatal. Other neurological and sometimes fatal conditions associated with the include ataxia, inability to coordinate muscle movements, mental retardation, that we now call maybe a little closer to what we might call autism, might be associated with autism, aseptic meningitis, seizure disorders, and hemiparesis, which is paralysis affecting one side of the body. Secondary complications associated with the may even be more frightening. They include encephalitis, subacute sclerosing, I already said it again, panencephalitis, multiple sclerosis, toxic epidural necrolysis, anaphylactic shock, Ray's syndrome, Guillain-Barré syndrome, blood clotting disorders, juvenile onset diabetes. The reason I emphasize that is because there's so much information about that now today. And even a relationship with Hodgkin's disease and cancer. I would consider the risks associated with unacceptable, even if there were convincing evidence that it worked. There isn't, he says. There isn't. That's his sentence. There isn't. Well, there has been a decline in the incidence of the disease. It began long before the was introduced. And that, my friends, is the crux of these kinds of treatments. The disease often goes into, I'll go this way because it's backwards. The disease climbs and climbs and climbs. In other words, it climbs in the population, and as it climbs, more and more children or whomever are associated, have the disease. And as it goes over the hump, often right about here as it comes down, that's when the is brought to the market and takes all the, shall I say, credit for what occurs on the way down. Because all infectious diseases do that. They have a bell curve, and on the way down, this procedure is put out to the market, and then that is taken all the credit. Now, I could go on. I could keep reading. But I'm going to read a story. One Los Angeles physician who refused to his own 7-month-old baby said, "I'm worried about what happens when the may not only offer little protection against the disease, but may also stay around in the body, working in a way we don't know much about." End of quote. His concern, says Dr. Mendelsohn, about the possibility of these consequences for his own child, however, did not cause him to stop his infant patients. He rationalized this contradictory behavior with the comment that, quote, as a parent, I have the luxury of making a choice for my child. As a physician, legally and professionally, I have to accept the recommendations of the profession, which is what we also had to do with the whole swine flu business, end of quote. Back to Dr. Mendelsohn, who then reports, perhaps it is time that lay parents and their children are granted the same luxury or information that doctors and their children enjoy. So there we have it. Tara says malnutrition because of the diet of most first world children, McDonald's, etc. Most of these children today have malnutrition. Importance yet again of good diet. Yes. Listen, not good. If they're getting some beef, I would diet no soda, no French fried. That, but at least a hamburger is meat. I wish people could exercise the right to develop naturally acquired lifetime immunity to these childhood infections like those born before 1960. Any one of us can learn how to identify them. Any one of us can learn how to identify them, treat them at home, and prevent complications. Any doctor can learn how to prevent death with the proper medical treatment when needed. No child needs to die of this disease. Right now, far more children die after the and are harmed for life, and they never even develop real immunity in exchange for the risk anyway. Thank you, Alice. You're absolutely right about that. So do you see how this book relates not just to children, but to our elderly parents, to our spouse when he's being treated by conventional medicine, when we work with a veterinarian for our chickens, for our cattle, for our puppies and cats. You see how it comes up all the way across. It's very important information, my friends. And so I have to tell you, I normally don't step out of this, step into this realm, I should say, but I'm not advising you. Dr. Robert Mendelsohn is advising you. And you might also want to read his other books. One of them is called Male Practice, M-A-L-E Practice, where he talks about the practice in the field of OBGYN. Everything this man writes is on the mark, in spite of the fact that he doesn't know anything, at least it doesn't show in any of his books, about homeopathy. So the premise of this book is that you can treat most everything that a child is exposed to or gets or is inflicted with, I should say. He says, learn how to treat and diagnose at home, that's emphasized. Everyday colds and flus, childhood illnesses, strep throat, vision and hearing problems, allergies, emotional problems. Allergies, you understand that? Allergies, a chronic condition such as allergies, emotional problems, skin ailments, and everything else you'll need to know about major symptoms and illnesses. And he's not even recommending homeopathy. All he's using is common sense. That's all he's telling us. Just step back. Stay away from getting all of the expert opinions and start thinking for yourself, my friends. Question authority. Question authority. It's so important. Let's see what people are saying. Let's see. Some people are having a little problem. Yeah, nothing we can, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's, we're just going to have to keep going because I see this whole group. My mighties are doing fine, which is great. Love to see that. Love to see that all you're doing fine. And I ask you, my friends, that when you watch these on Monday night, please like them, subscribe, share them, and help us boost these numbers because This is all about getting this information to others, because the more people who think this way, the easier our job as parents, grandparents, neighbors, friends, relatives, spouses, we become. So, I read this book, says Chennai. I read this book 37 years ago and have tried to raise all my children according to his advice. You've so got it. You're absolutely right. So, I don't say that we should read just one chapter here, another chapter there. I actually think this book should be read from cover to cover. I mean, it's so nice and tidy. You can slip it right into a handbag. You can read it while you're waiting in the car for someone. You can read it while you're traveling. And then you can bookmark it. I mean, look at my pages. They're all written in. I always write in my books. I have tabs and places where I believe is most important. I have the lines on the pages that I just read to you. This is very, very important. So what were the itching remedies, says Glenn. Thank you for asking and reminding me. For the itching remedies, my first thought, there are a number of itching remedies, is the first one I always think of is antimonium crude, antimonium crudum, in a low potency, 6 or 30. Arsenicum album, I wouldn't give them all at the same time. You try one, use it for a while. If the itching is maddening, then, and measles is not that maddening. It's not like chicken pox. By the way, though, I just have to ask you, how many of you are measles survivors? How many of you survived this illness? When I was in school and I was afflicted, I actually loved it. I got a chance to stay home. I mean, I loved school too, but I had a chance to do something different, stay home with my brother. We were both sick at the same time. My cousins all got it around the same time. So did all my classmates. So did my neighborhood. Everyone was sick, and I didn't know anybody who had any problems. They just stayed home. They slept in. They got extra really cool foods. We'd get, like, my mother would make popsicles from scratch, and we'd get that kind of stuff. So, very mild, says Mary. Yep, others. Me too, says Debbie. I think I did, says Diane. I survived, says Paula. Yeah, no kidding. Be keenly aware, friends, and I don't really have to say this too much to you, this group, because you are quite sophisticated in this information. But be aware when, as soon as there is a scare, watch what follows. Watch what the sales pitch will be. I remember hearing years ago about a neighborhood that was being broken into on a regular basis. No, it's the other way around, sorry. A neighborhood that was worried about being broken into. And what was happening was they were finding beer cans behind the bushes, and they'd find trash. It's not a neighborhood where you would normally find that. And it was frightening people, and then the police got together with the community to teach people how to deal with the possibility of break-ins. And so there was a long period of one summer in which everyone was made very afraid because there were strange things that were going on. Nobody had been broken into, just there were strange things in the bushes and around the neighborhood. And then something happened. Somebody came in and saved the day. And it was a burglar alarm system that came in shortly after and sold everybody burglar alarms. They'd never even thought of an alarm. It never even crossed their minds that they should be worried about something like that. And it was found out later that the burglar alarm system hired people to throw beer cans in the bushes, to frighten people, to even contact the police and say they were very worried. They set it all up. Now imagine that on not in a neighborhood level. Imagine that in a city level, statewide, countrywide, worldwide. Remember, my friends, if you know how to treat these conditions, you will stand solid. You will not be frightened by these things. Never had them, but all my siblings and myself survived the CPOX. Yep. Yeah, I did too. We all got it. Beware of the scare. I love it, Tina. May I borrow that? Yes, in replying to Guerrero, Jenny, use remedies for the symptoms and possibly the nosode. The symptoms are really our key. Symptoms never lie, my friends. Symptoms are our gifts. When symptoms occur, then we know that shows us the way as to what medicines we'll use homeopathically. So we have antimonium crude. Arsenicum album is another great medicine. If there's restlessness, even more so arsenicum album. If there's anxiety, very unlikely, but if there's anxiety, the mother is the one who has the anxiety. It's the mother, the one who's taking care and if she has anxiety, my friends, it's because she's not done enough reading. Educating ourselves is what relieves us of angst. Did you hear me say that? Educating yourself relieves you of angst. You have to know more. You have to know more than that. And make it your focus. This is important stuff. Make it your focus, my friends. Despicable, says Vicky. Yeah. Planned. It was planned. It was arranged. It was planned. And so many things are planned. They're marketing schemes. Be very careful. So watch for that, my friends. And tonight I'm going to go to my Joette's Mighty members. I think I can go directly to them. Perry, will I be able to go directly to the Joette's Mighty members? And then after that, I'm going to our next group, Mighty's Plus. So I've got a group of people waiting to join in and ask more specific questions. Yeah, can we go a little bit longer? Yeah, oh, that's right, we've got 2 more minutes. Let's go to more questions, shall we? Arsenicum potency, Pamela asks. Okay, so I like to use a 30. 30 is a really good potency, and that's probably what you have in your kit. Make sure you own a kit, friends. It's okay if you bought remedies all along, but if you're especially if you're just starting out, own a kit. These homeopathic pharmacies, for whom we rely greatly, have a very good handle on exactly what medicines are going to be useful for most families. I remember, says Alice, my mom giving us cod liver oil regularly, and I believe that is why we sailed through it so easily. We had chicken noodle soup, Jello, real Jello. In those days, it was real Jello. Cartoons and our PJs and stories at bedtime until we were better. That's it. That's why we loved it, right? Angeline says, I've used homeopathy for many years, and today I'm trying to overcome a serious case of contact dermatitis that has spread beyond the initial allergic area. I've had approximately 8 different remedies in the last 4 weeks. 4 weeks, my friend, you don't need to wait that long. In addition, many of them aggravated my symptoms. Any suggestions? I feel I have chosen some very appropriate remedies. This is what I would suggest. If you think there's any chance that there's something that caused this, such as a medication, maybe you came out of surgery first and then it showed up. If there was anything that was extrinsic coming in, then that can be drug-induced dermatitis, which is a different, it's a horse of a different color. But, and in that case, if that were so, I'm going to suggest that you go to the Banerjee Protocol book and look up D, dermatitis. Was it D? No, it's under D, drug-induced dermatitis. And look at that. Now, because there's an added medicine in there that you need to rotate. And so I'm not going to go into it all right now because that would be just spending too much on one particular case. And also go to Joette's Learning Center and scroll down to my Learning Center and scroll down to Skin the Ugly Truth, because I give you all of the medicines that need to be considered when we have something going on like this. Okay, measles, mumps, chickenpox, survived them all, as did 3 siblings, several cousins, neighbors, fellow students, friends. No one I knew had complications from these childhood diseases. There we go. Alrighty, my friends, it's 8:30 Eastern time. I'm going to dash off. I'll see you next week. Love your participation. And if you're in a Mighties, then you're going to stay with me a little bit longer, and we'll carry on through the Mighties group.